Well, hello there, and welcome to the Mindset Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Janine Kathleen, and I love helping you understand the difference you can make in your life, your energy, and in your future through understanding the power your thoughts, your feelings, your words have in your life. And then, of course, we throw emotions in. As a personal leadership coach, a psychic healer, I work with energy and I help others do the same. Part of this is helping people move beyond their limits. Now, something that many of us are unaware of is that when we feel triggered and when we are triggered by other people, other situations, these are things asking us to say, well, you asked to grow, you asked to create this income, you asked to have this relationship. Well, let's see what we can do to help you build the capacity for it. And when we get triggered by people, this is what we're doing. We are being shown where there's either a scar, a wound, a preconceived concept or idea, where there's something that is blocking our energy inside of our bodies, inside of ourselves, and inside of our life. And I was talking the other day at a connection breakfast, we were all sharing, and what came forward for me was being aware of the treasure in our triggers. Because when we can become aware of the treasure that trigger is, we get to understand ourselves better, we get to be more mindful, and we also get to understand the other person better. Another thing is we build resilience and we build our capacity to move forward to the future self we've said we would like to be, we're choosing to be. We get to create the income, the relationships, the businesses, because these triggers are all part of it. They are there to help us. They are there to grow us. They're there to stretch us. And they are there to help us see that once we deal with them, we've expanded our comfort zone, we've increased our capacity, and in a much deeper way, we are able to move forward in alignment and in integrity. I was trying to get all the ins out. So it's in alignment and in integrity. It takes being mindful of what's going on. It does take being mindful of our thinking, our responses, our reactions, and what's going on around us. For me, I know if I'm tired or if I am feeling a little bit out of sorts, I get to be extra special aware of what's going on so that I'm unavailable to play the let's snap the person's head off game or let's misunderstand them and then have to clean up the mess afterwards. And it's when we can do this that we are able to then say, okay, this is helping the blocked energies inside of me to release. It also helps release karmic patterns and soul ties and soul patterns as well. It also helps us release karmic threads, things where we've set things up in action or parts of our family have set things in action, or even where other people have spoken stuff out about us and we've taken it on because we have a trigger, because we have a hook inside of ourselves. And with the awareness of what is the reason this is a trigger for me? Is it a valid trigger? And what can I do about it? That we get to go and explore the treasure within that trigger, the growth, the expansion, the healing, the understanding, and we build that resilience, we build that foundation. And in building it, as things happen and come up, that trigger, once it's resolved, tends to disappear. It's no longer there. Other times it comes forward again. And I've had clients say to me, well, Janine, I've dealt with this. Yeah, well, maybe you are going to require a deeper foundation. Maybe you haven't quite dealt with it. There's still a little bit left there for you to deal with. For me, one of the triggers I have is the word always when it's used in a negative context. If somebody says to me, you always do this, with that tone of voice, I have learned to step back and take a breath because it takes a lot of discipline and self-control for me to stay calm, stay peaceful, rather than come out of my corner swinging. Because number one, that person is now literally boxing me in a corner. They're speaking it out, and with emotion, they're saying that I always carry on doing something, which means then I have that hook inside myself in different circumstances around the same circumstance to respond the same way rather than being unavailable for the game. And something I have learned is I've seen patterns, I've recognized patterns in my relationship with myself and with other people. But the result is now when they come out with that always statement, I am able to step back and say, I am absolutely unavailable for this game. Therefore, that always falls away. It has no longer, becomes invalid. It literally becomes invalid. And the next time and the next time, and I can go and explore the reason that, where am I responding to that judgment? Where am I responding to that getting stuck in a box area? And where does it really no longer matter? Where is it absolutely unimportant anymore in my life? And this is understanding triggers. Another trigger for me is when I'm busy and somebody comes up behind me and asks me for something. Number one, I can get a fright. And number two, it's a case of I'm busy with something. Are you dead? Are you dying? Are you bleeding? Do you have bones? Any sticking out? Well, then please just give me 2 minutes. Again, I've had to learn to say, just hold on 2 secs, please. You know what's so interesting? When my children were small, I would say to them, just give me 2 seconds, and I'd hold their hand so that I remembered to do it. Or I'd say to the person I'm with, please, can you just let me have a moment? So I had to go, I didn't have to, I chose to go and explore how come it was becoming a trigger. And what I discovered was that because children are small and they are less aware than adults, I had an assumption that they would just know that I'm busy. And when I moved that assumption and that paradigm, guess what? The trigger fell away. It may seem a silly example to someone, and yet for me, it was a very valid trigger. Now, I had a trigger the other day. I was on a call with several people, and I just felt myself getting really anxious when a certain person was speaking. And when I came off the call, I was like, okay, what was the trigger there that was triggering this deep-seated anxiety inside of me? And what came forward was the person was extremely energetic. And I was actually, I found myself actually sending calming energy to them, which was a distraction for me from the entire thing. Whereas I didn't, really, it was silly to be sending that calming energy. Allow them to have their energy. I have a different type of energy. So if they have that energy, that's theirs, and that's okay. It's just I was exhausted by their energy, and without exploring it, I could have got snappy. And because of awareness, because of looking for the treasure in the trigger, I was able to say, okay, there's a trigger here. Let's accept the person for where they are, who they are, and what they are, and go and explore it afterwards. Well, you know what? The rest of the session was absolutely fantastic. And I learned a lot from all the various, there were about 30 people on the call. And I was then, once I'd calmed down, I was able to relax and absorb from other people. This is the other thing. Sometimes we will trigger ourselves as an excuse to avoid learning and moving forward. We will allow ourselves to be triggered. And when we can avoid that, wow, it's amazing what can happen. I call it pulling my barriers down, becoming aware, and just letting the energy flow through me. When we are looking to discover the treasures from a trigger, number one, it requires being mindful. Number two, I find my meditation and contemplation practice and walking in nature really has made a huge difference, because through connecting with myself, I'm able to recognize much more quickly what is and isn't a trigger. Journaling, absolutely, people. Pick up that pen, pick up the journal, and go and write, this is what happened, this is what I experienced. Remember, use I. Avoid putting anything on the other person. This is what I observed. This was the experience as it happened. Where have I had this experience before? And what was the wounding, or what was the constriction that I'm now responding to or reacting to? What is a better way to respond to it? Where can I let go? And that's where, as a personal leadership coach, I help people to move beyond their limits, because that trigger is a limit. And I help people to then go and find the treasure in it. Because you know what is so amazing? When you can find joy in mastery and in endurance, it's actually incredible what can happen when you are able to discover that I can master myself enough to create a response rather than a reaction and find joy in it. Wow, it's amazing. You also then are creating beyond that limit. You are seeing the limit that the trigger brings to you because you stop listening, you get irritable with the person, you're unable to accept the gift of what is being offered to you, whether it's the releasing of trauma and wounding, whether it's the expansion of a comfort zone, whatever it is. And this then, as you learn to connect with yourself more and you learn to master your responses more and to bring joy to a situation rather than staying stuck behind the barrier or the limit, wow, it makes such an incredible difference in life. Mindset, really, when we reset our mindset and our heart set, it makes such an incredible difference. And when we pay attention to our gut and the small, soft whisper that comes from intuition, it is absolutely powerful how much treasure you can find in those triggers. Expansion, growth, even cash flow, people, better relationships with yourself, those around you, and healing. Let me know your thoughts. Come and find me on social media, and have a grand, glorious, and amazing day. And if you'd like to work with me, reach out and let's explore it. The way to contact me will be in the show notes. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.